Hey guys, it's me, Ellie, aka Looks from the Crypt, and today we're going to be getting into a movie that I rather enjoy that I feel like is not talked about very much, and that movie is The Oregonian. And despite it having this like super cool fancy Vinegar Syndrome release, I still don't see much talk about it, and I really like this movie. It's a movie that comes into the genre that is kind of my bread and butter, which is like the like weird artsy experimental low budget shit, and that's exactly what this is. This was like a Kickstarter movie, completely crowdfunded, non-linear storyline, lots of very like, how do I say, standout visuals and really interesting sound design. To give a short overview as to what The Oregonian is all about, is basically a woman wakes up from a car crash and we encounter many strangers throughout the town. Each person gets weirder and weirder as we go down through this trip to just try to find some help. And after the review, I'm going to be talking about just, I guess, like life updates where I've been, because I've been missing. I haven't really been uploading or really doing much content that's like, you know, a full-on review like this with the clips and everything. I've just been kind of doing like come with me to the theaters or like Letterboxd, so that's all I really have the capacity for. But I am back. I am ready to go. And if diving into the weird experimental movie that is The Oregonian sounds like fun to you, grab a snack, grab a drink, and keep on watching.
Once we were contenders, nothing but the stars in our eyes, free as the wind blowing out on the sea.
Also, fun fact, I'm from Oregon, in case you didn't know, and this movie is pronounced
Oregonian.
Before I did this review, I saw did anybody else talk about this movie on YouTube yet? And I heard somebody call it The Oregonian, and I found that to be really offensive. So this is The Oregonian. So The Oregonian starts out with a woman kind of feeding some farm animals, and she approaches a man who is, you know, like passed out on the ground. She steals his alcohol and goes out driving. Drinking and driving seems to be like a lot of people's favorite pastime. So that's what she's up to. And then she ends up waking up like covered in blood, like after like getting into a car wreck, but we don't see that. And after waking up from this car wreck, she does discover that what appears to be that she killed like a couple people in the process. And something that I really want to point out about this is like, well, one, I do not know if this was like shot in Oregon, but it's definitely shot in PNW, and it looks like it. Like, this looks like so many places I recognize and things like that. And with that being said, with this kind of like setup and this kind of like aimless wandering around, the Oregonian kind of plays out like a survival horror game more than what I would traditionally think of as like a movie experience, which kind of makes it like stand out and kind of set itself like apart from like others of like, you know, similar qualities. And while our main character is walking around just kind of like aimlessly trying to find somebody who can help her, we encounter this older woman who like distinctly reminds me of like she's like in like this whole like red like outfit, and like it reminds me of like in Suspiria when they go like witch. During a lot of this kind of like aimless walking around, and there's like not like a whole lot going on other than like simply, I guess, appreciating our setting. And that's like a thing I have like big problems with so many movies that like have these beautiful settings like this, is that they don't take advantage of it, and we don't really get to see like what's like out there. And I'd say Bodies is a really good example of that. Or sorry, Bodies. We have this like awesome mansion and this like beautiful forest outside that we never actually get to see because the film shot like this. The film is shot like this. So the Oregonian does not do that, and we get to see like the nature all around our main character. While we're just kind of taking in like this adventure and nature that's going on, there is a very like grueling soundtrack that's going on. Basically just really like ambient, dissonant, like noisy stuff. And here, this is where we discover a green patch of fabric in the road. After walking pretty far, it does appear that we have unfortunately have made a loop and didn't actually go make like a distance, you know what I mean? And back to the accent, we were introduced to one of my fucking favorite characters, this motherfucker on the cover, which also I just want to point out, if I hadn't like been familiar with this movie, or this been like something that I was like, you know, like after, this cover alone would have made me want to buy it, right? So luckily, this guy's a pretty important part of our movie. And we see our frog characters like slumped over in the car, covered in blood, just like how we found our main protagonist earlier. However, he has a shotgun in the car. And I just want to say, this is like one of those moments where I feel like imagery is like huge. Like, he really stands out. And it's like one of those things that's just like gets like burnt into your retinas. And when after you know, like when you think of the Oregonian, you think of this motherfucker covered in blood. And while we are like taking it all in, seeing this frog man in a suit covered in blood, the witch appears in the passenger side, and then we get just fucking blasted with imagery of all things that we are going to see later, and maybe not quite make sense of. So just to make things easier on me, I'm going to call our main character Sarah. She looks like a Sarah to me. She's got like the Target like back to school fall fit, right? So anyways, she steals the shotgun out of Kermit's car. And we're like exploring and walking around again. Still feels so much like a survival video game. Anyways, we find a house that's open and that she is unlocked, and she goes into it. However, within this home, we are only met with hideous paint jobs. They gave you the landlord special, you know, hoarder vibes, and still not a single fucking person that can help us out. So we give up and we start wandering around aimlessly yet again, and this is when we're introduced to another character who, high-key, but to me, he looks very uncannily like the motherfucker from like the Vomit Gore trilogy, the guy who wears like the octopus hat or whatever. So we meet a guy who looks like him. She decides to hop in his truck with him, and she's trying to like explain and say that she needs help and kind of really drill in like the severity of her situation, yet he doesn't respond. Once we're moving, we pull over to take a nice old pee, and this is like on some very absurdist, feels like Tim and Eric humor kind of shit. He gets out to take a piss, which starts from clear to I've been on the road for 2 weeks, dehydrated, looking pissed, to blood, to black. And then he just falls down face first into like this like putrid piss pile, and we think he's dead, but then he just suddenly like shoots back up and is like, hello? Breakfast.
I'm okay. Too much breakfast, maybe.
And we accept that as being a fair response to what happened and carry on. We are driving through the night, and our breakfast man is just talking about like making like the most perfect, juiciest omelet fucking ever before we find a hotel that we choose to stay at. Sarah, who I named, is trying to use the phone with obviously no avail, because things are weird. Things are not quite right? So while she's trying to use the phone and just getting blasted with like screams and like noise on the other end, our breakfast dude is over here making an omelet, but certainly not following the recipe that he described. If I'm being honest, I think he may have gotten this recipe from the same place like Kay's Cooking gets her recipes from, and I think that place is called 4chan.
People, I'm back cooking again.
And again, I'm going to emphasize again, is that this movie's really big on imagery and like fucking absurdist humor, it feels like, right? So this is when our witch appears again in like the hotel room, and we get all these sorts of like weird, like chaotic visions of like the frog and like dead people and whatever. However, what snaps are like Sarah out of this is that the frog dude is literally just beating it like up against like the window right next to her. And then this is where we get some like, I guess like explanation tie-ins here. So that whole opening scene that we got of her like taking the alcohol from that dude and driving off, I'm assuming she's like in a relationship with this guy, and he is calling like her like a whore, con, and like my most favorite is when he said,
Are such a fucking cunt. I fucking loved you, and now this pussy is like a fucking outhouse. You let anybody shit in it, won't you?
You just let anybody fucking shit in it.
Is accusing her of cheating and is talking about like the man in like he's seen the man in the forest that she's like fucking, right? And he's like accusing her of cheating, and I just want to say like this feels okay. This is one of those things where I'm like I'm not sure. I don't know what their intent was here, but I feel like it feels a lot funnier to me than it is what like they imagined it playing out as. You know what I mean? And again, she's broken out of her flashback by, again, the frog, who I think is, like, her, like, spiritual, like, guide throughout this. And he's just showering in the frog suit, of course. And then she goes out to smoke because obviously seeing the frog showering was a little bit overwhelming. And then she goes over to the next hotel room she sees across the way. And as mentioned earlier, there was like a man in the trees like masturbating that her boyfriend, husband, whatever, thinks that she's cheating on him with, where we see him in this room like humping something, but we don't see what. And then she starts like spitting out like black goo. And this when things get like, I mean, this shit was already fucking wild, but this is when it gets like wild, you know? And there's like cultists like chanting. It gets giving, it's serving midsummer, you know what I mean? And then fast forward, we're with the frog. We're driving as far as we can go until presumably I think we ran out of gas. And the frog tries to steal her shotgun from her, and it doesn't work. And then after their little scuffle, he just embraces her. This isn't really like worth mentioning. I just like this scene, so that's why I'm talking about. And we start beginning, and we are walking all day and night until we encounter a man with a torch who has a completely bandaged face, which leads them to an RV with, like, I don't know, like, the vibes are here. It's giving, like, I don't know why this, like, takes up, like, the same space in my mind as, like, men who look like they're in the Mighty Boosh in this RV who are, like, singing, like, what sounds like 70s type songs, you know, and they're drinking gasoline and bleeding from their crotches. All in all, like normal tour stuff, normal tour guy stuff. That's literally me. And now we are traveling through the desert with these guys, and now that we've chosen our destination, the desert, we choose to fucking party. Now we're back to that other motel room, like that other, like, secondary one where the humping man is at, that we also know to be, like, the masturbating man in the trees or what have you, and it is revealed what he is humping, and he is humping our main character's, like, dead, lifeless, like limp body, and she has a gaping wound in her back that the breakfast man comes back to shove eggs and gasoline into. I discover a new fetish every day, boys. And then we're back with the frog. Frog takes off his, like, I guess mascot head. I don't know what you want to call it, to reveal that he is the humping man. He is the tree masturbator. Whoa. Not gonna lie though, with like this movie making as much sense as it does, when I had that review, I didn't really have any feelings. I was just like, yeah, okay, gotcha. And this causes our main character, like Sarah, that I've named, to just fucking like kill him while he's like masturbating in the back of this truck. And now she's in the frog suit covered in blood, and she's delirious, laughing, and she's back to the scene of the crime, playing with like the dead bodies that she hit with her car. And now she is driving with the witch, like, being absolutely hysterical, like, laughing their fucking asses off as her skin gets, like, more, like, I don't know, she gets, like, boils and, like, blisters are, like, exploding, and it's yucky, and then that's it. That's the end. That was the Oregonian. I just want to say I particularly love this ending, just because, like, it feels, like, really satisfying, even though, like, I don't really have big feelings towards any of these characters, right? So the Oregonian, I'll just give you my interpretation of what I believe had happened here. The weird guy, the like masturbating sex offender man in the woods who is also the frog. I believe that yeah, he is like some kind of like stalker, weirdo, sex offender, whatever the fuck you want to label him as, towards our main character that I named Sarah. Her boyfriend, husband, whatever, does not like understand that she's being harmed, and this is not like a consensual thing, and he thinks that she's cheating on him, which, you know, results in this like big fight, this blow up where he just like passes out. I don't really know what to think of that. He's obviously like still alive, but she steals the alcohol, gets drunk, and goes driving, and is like, wee, woohoo, right? But there's no more woohoos when she crashes, and I think she died. That's my interpretation here, is that she is dead, and this is some kind of like weird, like in between purgatory hellscape that is also like an absurdist humor person's like wet dream. So with that being said, and that's why I feel like, you know, we're in this like endless loop where she can't really seem to like get anywhere and just gets like weirder and weirder. Is the Oregonian scary? Not necessarily. There's not really scares, which is also why I feel like this is a movie I wouldn't necessarily recommend to like everybody, right? This just is like something I'd recommend for the people that already know they're gonna like it. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't like recommend this to like a traditional horror fan by any means. And if this sounds like interesting to you, there is actually like, I just encountered this weekend, a full upload of the Oregonian on YouTube. I'll have like linked down below in the description. And of course you can get a copy of it through Vinegar Syndrome. There is like a DVD copy that's like hard to find from my understanding. So just like, don't waste your time. Get the cool ass Vinegar Syndrome release. And with all that being said, now it's time for my life updates and where the fuck I've been. Mid-February, I got COVID, and I was not having a good time by any means. And then this was like a weird transitionary period because I tested positive for COVID. I had a job interview. I quit my job. I started a new job. And in addition to changing jobs, I play music. I have a band and called it Cold Blood, which a lot of the music I play in here on my videos is literally my projects. So you already know Cold Blood whether you realize it or not. And this is like an old project that was a studio project that now we're bringing to life in like a fuller sense. And we had our first show like the same week as I ended my job and started my new one. So lots of preparation around that. And then immediately afterward, of course, I need to get settled into my new job and what all that looks like, in addition to a Cold Blood started recording. So I've been really fucking busy. With that being said, I'm like definitely, you know, I'm more so in my job. I record my parts for the EP. Yada yada yada, you know, the stress and the nerves of playing our first show. And because I have main character syndrome, I was like, this is a Cold Blood's first show. This is the purpose of this show happening. So that made it have a lot of pressure. However, again, things are a lot more chill now. So definitely be expecting more videos, more content. And of course, as always, if you have any recommendations of things that you want to hear me talk about, or just suggest some things you think I would like that I should check out, just let me know. Sound off in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been me, Ellie, aka Looks from the Crypt, and I am out. Also, smash the motherfucking like button. Sorry guys, I haven't like talked to you guys in a long time, so like I feel like I'm like fucking on one right now.